Today, I'm going to talk you through the simplest method to apply progressive overload into your workouts so that you can start building the body that you've been chasing. It's the method I use with most of my own clients. It's the method I use the most myself, and it's probably the method that you should be using as well. Hi, I'm Ryan, an online fitness coach that's helped hundreds of people build the body of their dreams whilst developing the fitness and the strength to back it up as well. So I've talked about progressive overload in previous videos, the concept of gradually doing more and more over time to ensure that your body keeps getting enough of a stimulus to drive change and ultimately move forwards close to your goal. Now, there are lots of different ways to implement this, most of which I've tried. Linear progression, great for beginners. Wave progression, a bit more complex, but can be useful, albeit a bit harder to track. And you've got some more fancy and complicated methods which involve percentages, which again are great if you're more advanced, but do you really want to be whacking your calculator out in the middle of the gym trying to work out 72.5% of 85? I don't. So after years of self-experimentation, trial and error with clients, I think double progression is the best method for most people, and that probably applies to you too. So double progression, it involves two variables then, hence the double. So we've got the weight and the number of reps. Over time, we're going to progress both of those. So it will look a little bit like this. Let's say you've got an exercise, bench press, and it's been programmed for 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. So the 8 to 12 reps is your rep range. Let's say that you can do 60 kilos for 10 reps. That could be a good place to start. So on that first set, you might get your 10 reps. The second set, you start to tire, you get 9 reps. And the third set, again, a bit more fatigued, you get 8. So you've gone 10, 9, 8 with 60 kilos. All 3 sets are in that 8 to 12 rep range, and you're probably starting from a pretty good position there. So what you're going to do week in, week out is you're going to stick with that 60 kilo bench press. Each week trying to do just a few more reps. So maybe rather than going 10, 9, 8, the next time you go 10, 10, 8, for example. We're not looking for huge jumps up, although if you can make them, great. Instead, we're just looking for little improvements week on week until eventually you can hit the top of that rep range. So you can go 12, 12, 12 with that 60 kilos. And at that point, you know you're ready for the next progression, which would be to go from 60 kilos to either 62.5 or maybe 65. Then, once we've increased the weight, the next time we do that movement, chances are the reps are going to drop back down again. So rather than being able to do 12, 12, 12 like we could with 60, it might be that we're back down to 8, 8, 8. And we're going to do the exact same thing again of gradually progressing with this new weight until we can hit the top of the rep range. So we're always looking to move one thing forward, whether it's the reps or whether it's the weight. But by giving yourself this range to work within, it stops you increasing the weight too quickly before your body's actually ready. So it makes for more sustainable and long-term progress, and also helps avoid you kind of picking up too many niggles by going heavier than your body can handle. So you can see it's really simple, and that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of it. But there are a few areas where people can go wrong, so I'll just talk you through those now. The first one, and this is probably the most common, is people just desperately trying to hit the top of the rep range before they're ready. So again, maybe if we use that 3 sets of 8 to 12 as an example, because they're so desperate to get 3 sets of 12, the first set of 12 might look great, but the second 2 sets, the 8, 9, and 10 reps might look decent. And in the last couple, it hardly even looks like a bench press because there's no depth on the rep, or their body's kind of leaning from left to right as they desperately try and get the rep up. That doesn't count. At that point, you might have hit 3 sets of 12, but you'll be upping the weight before your body can even really handle the 60 kilos. So don't be in a rush to increase the weight. We're looking for you to hit the top of the rep range with great form, where reps 1 to 12 all look identical. At that point, then you're ready to increase the weight. So don't rush it. The second one, a bit less common, but I've seen people do it, is they won't even wait to hit the top of the rep range until increasing the weight. So again, if you use that 8 to 12 example, it might be that they go 12, 11, 10, think, that's close enough, and then increase the weight at that point. No, don't do that. There's no point having a system if you're not going to follow it. And the third one, the third main mistake, mainly just comes down to actually not tracking. I don't care how good your memory is, you're not going to remember the exact number of reps that you did on every single exercise every time you were in the gym. So make a note, whether it's in an app, whether it's on a little piece of paper, I don't care, just make a note of it somewhere so that each time you step into the gym, on every exercise, you know how many reps you did last time. Do you need to increase the weight, or are you going to keep the weight the same, but you've got a target there in terms of a number of reps to aim for? So that there is the system. Really simple, really effective. I've also just pointed out some of the pitfalls that you need to avoid. The last thing I want to cover is how do you actually choose the rep range itself. So I've used 8 to 12 there. That's quite a decent and quite a common one, but there is flexibility here. Again, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that the most important thing when it comes to driving change in your physique is actually how close are you training to failure. So that needs to be there regardless of what rep range you go for. But I would also say your compound movements, so your squats, your deadlifts, your bench presses, things like that, multi-joint movements, they will typically work better with a lower rep range. So anything probably as low as 4 is going to be all right. And for your compounds, I typically wouldn't go much above 10. So anywhere in that 4 to 10 range could be decent. So it could be like 4 to 8 or 6 to 10. I like to stick to a slightly lower rep range just because these are heavy movements. They're quite taxing, and trying to bang out sets of 12 to 15 can be pretty brutal. And chances are the thing that fatigues first probably won't even be the actual muscle that you're trying to target in this case. For more of your isolation exercises, again, they might be slightly higher in terms of reps. So I'd potentially look at things like 8 to 12, maybe 10 to 15. Again, there's actually no reason why they couldn't be lower in terms of reps. Like if you want to do sets of 4 to 8 on leg extensions, then that's absolutely fine as well. But often I find people like a bit of variety in terms of the type of training that they're doing. So they're like some heavy work, but also some kind of feel the burn type pump work as well. But again, that can just be a personal preference. You will also find as well that on certain movements that you're typically having to go a bit lighter on, so your smaller muscle groups, you'll probably need a bigger gap in the range. And what I mean by that is if we take, for example, a deadlift, where chances are you can go pretty heavy, even if I only have like a rep range of 2, so it could be like 4 to 6 reps, for example, on my deadlift. If I go from 120 kilos to 122.5 kilos or 125 kilos even, percentage wise, that's not a huge increase. So if I was just doing 4 to 6 reps and I'd got to a point where I could do 3 sets of 6 with 100, well, if I increase it to 122.5, I'm probably still going to fall within that rep range. If, for example, I go for a lateral raise instead, and let's say with those I'm only doing 4 kilogram dumbbells on my lateral raises, even if I just go up 1 dumbbell from 4 to 5, that's a 25% increase. So chances are if I was doing 3 sets of 6 with 4 and I increase it to 5, I might only get 1 or 2 reps because proportionally it's a big jump, even though it's only just 1 kilo. So that's why with those smaller muscle groups, with exercises that you're going lighter on, you're going to need a bigger rep range to work with in. So let's bring that all together then. Pick your rep range, start somewhere at the bottom, focus on really good form, owning that technique, and stick with a weight until you can hit the top of the rep range on all of your sets on a given exercise with that specific weight. At that point, make a small jump up in weight, probably the smallest increment available to you. Repeat the process and carry on in that format pretty much indefinitely. That is a surefire, guaranteed way to get stronger in the gym, to build more muscle, to get a better looking physique, all with minimal admin, no calculators involved, and it will ensure consistent and long-term progression and make the gym a fun and enjoyable place for you to be, where each week you've got a target to aim for, whether it's more reps or more weight, and it should make progress pretty much automatic. I hope you've found this video useful. If you've got any questions, put them in the comment below. If you want to see more content like this, then hit like and subscribe. And if you'd like to work with me so that I can help you implement this type of progression and more into your training and make the process as straightforward and simple for you as possible, then drop me an email and let's have a chat.